welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be reacting to Why Do Animals Keep Evolving into Crabs by Beyond the Blue. It's got 1.5 million views 4 months ago. Yeah, I've heard a lot about this, but I never really learned about it, you know what I mean? People have told me about it, I've heard about it, never really learned about it. I want to now.
You are evolving into a crab. Well, probably not anytime soon, but this is real, and probably the strangest phenomenon that's still happening today. Many animals in the wild that weren't crabs have now evolved into crabs. Take a look here. This is not a crab. This is not a crab either. In fact, nothing I'm showing you right now is a crab. They've all just slowly, over millions of years, become more and more like one. This phenomenon has been so widely studied in science that it has its own name, carcinization, which, if you translate from Latin roots, essentially means crabization, the tendency for things to become crabs. Of course, this sounds ridiculous, because it is. But when we look into nature, we see this effect happening everywhere. Some did it millions of years apart.
You know, it's like, it's stuff you knew, but you never really thought about, you know? You never really connected the dots.
Some did it in totally different oceans. Some weren't even remotely related. But why does it seem like this is the ultimate life form for all animals? What stops us from evolving into crabs next? And will all roads always lead to crab? This crabification effect has been joked about online, with hundreds of memes about crabs.
That's how I've heard about it, just memes.
Being the epitome of all life. And well, this is actually right. Scientifically, this is peak performance. But how do we know this? Well,
it's so like wonky though, and it walks so weird. It's like walking
for this
sideways.
Goes back to an effect called convergent evolution. Essentially, this is when two different organisms that deal with similar challenges end up evolving the same traits independently. If you've watched our video about massive squids, you'd know that two different squids have both evolved to become massive, even though they're completely different species. Being giant benefited them both, so both became giant. But why crabs, and why do we see this so often? To get that answer, we need to understand what crab-like actually means. Because not every creature that looks like a crab is a real crab. Some, and actually most crabs, are just evolutionary imposters that ended up looking like them. A crab-like body usually has a wide, flat shape that keeps the center of gravity low and makes the animal stable. That flattened design also lets it slip under rocks, hide in tight spaces, and avoid getting flipped over by waves or predators. Because the last thing you want is to end up like this. Crab-like bodies also obviously have a shell, but it's more than just armor. It turns the entire body into a compact tank. When your whole shape is basically a shield, you survive a lot more things than creatures with long exposed segments, like lobsters or shrimp. Crabs also have short, powerful legs that give them insanely good control over their movement.
They are fast too, and they're shifty, you know, they real quick.
Why they can move like this.
It looks weird.
Oh, not like that. I mean like this. They're actually better at moving sideways, which helps them dodge predators while still being able to face them. But this raises a really interesting point. If the crab shape is so effective, why isn't everything turned into lobsters instead? Lobsters are strong, armored, and successful too. So why don't we see lobsterization? They're still alive today. Clearly, they've also survived millions of years. Well, the lobster body plan is actually way harder to modify. Lobsters have long, segmented bodies with big tails, and that layout limits what evolution can do with it. You can't flatten a lobster without breaking half its anatomy. The moment you try to squash that long tail under the body the way crabs do, the whole structure stops functioning. Crabs, on the other hand, start with a compact shape that's incredibly easy to tweak. Their body plan can widen, shorten, armor up, or shift direction without ruining their
it's just more versatile. It's just more versatile than lobsters. It's just a more versatile adaptation. It can go. You can do a lot of things.
Once you become crab-shaped, it's very stable. Species rarely stretch back out again. Becoming lobster-like again would require re-elongating the abdomen, re-changing musculature, remodifying tail fins, and restructuring the whole body. Those changes are much harder to evolve than simply shortening the body and tucking the tail. Carcinization is mechanically easy. Lobsterization is mechanically expensive. So who was the first crab to become a crab?
It's so weird to think about it like that, right? But
well,
yeah, it's
technically,
just true.
the earliest true crabs, the infraorder Brachyura, showed up over 200 million years ago, back before dinosaurs were even alive. But the interesting part is that they weren't alone, because around that same time, other crustaceans that weren't even part of the crab family tree started evolving into crab-shaped forms too. We don't call Brachyura true crabs because they were somehow more authentic or more biologically superior. Most of it is they were simply the ones we discovered first. Back when scientists were first trying to categorize animals, they had no clue about genetics or evolutionary history. They were working purely on appearance. So animals in the Brachyura group, the flat, wide-bodied creatures with the tucked-in tail and sideways walk, were what we defined as the real crabs. In a way,
Yeah, and
these are
then
the
now it's easier with the DNA and everything like that, you know?
first animals to become crabs, real crabs themselves, which sounds really redundant, I know, but it does point out the fact that they are included in the effect of carcinization. They didn't create the design themselves, we just dubbed them the official crabs. So what other crabs are there that aren't real crabs? Well, the most famous imposters are king crabs. Genetically, king crabs are actually giant hermit crabs that evolved out of the living in a snail shell strategy. Their ancestors used to carry shells on their backs, just like the tiny hermit crabs you see on beaches. But over millions of years, they evolved a hardened body of their own, lost the need to swap shells, flattened out, widened, and slowly shifted into a crab-like shape, because that was what was effective. Even though king crabs and true crabs look way more similar on the outside than king crabs and hermit crabs, they come from completely different branches of the crustacean family tree. Their last common ancestor wasn't a crab, it was some primitive crustacean hundreds of millions of years ago. We obviously can't say for sure what they look like, but they definitely didn't look like crabs. It's interesting, because anyone who's eaten king crab versus normal crab with any frequency would usually be able to tell the difference from their taste.
Never eaten like crab. I don't think I've ever eaten crab like at all. Just like only like those fake ones, you know, those crab sticks. Are they crab? Yeah, I think they're crab. Yeah, those crab sticks.
Which would make sense since they aren't the same animal. But what other things have turned into crabs? Well, take a look at porcelain crabs. Okay, wait. Is everything that's not a crab called a crab? See, part of the problem is everything that looked like a crab when we found them was named to be one, and now that's what they're named. It's kind of hard to change, even if we actually understand how the ancestral lineage works now. Porcelain crabs...
So they got the crab in their name, but they're not really crabs, they just look like crabs, so they assumed they were crabs. They were all like from the same thing, but they're actually different species that all ended up looking like crabs.
Belong to the order Anomura, the same branch as the squat lobsters, and they're actually incredibly similar to them, but just with a squat lobster shape. They don't fight like crabs though, and their shells break much more easily, almost as if they're made of porcelain. However, if you were some unassuming explorer and saw these guys, I mean, who wouldn't call them a crab? And carcinization has occurred in crab-like species before crabs even existed. Fossils like Eocarcinus and Eoprosopon show that carcinization has been happening long before true crabs even existed. We see this same body type with flat, wide bodies and tucked-in tails over and over, as if evolution can't help but just keep wanting to make more crabs. But if being a crab is such an ultimate life form, then where are these crabs now? Well, most of these early photo crabs are actually completely extinct now. The problem was, they literally weren't good enough at being crabs. Some lacked the hardened shell true crabs.
So they were okay. So maybe it's all these things are crabs, but they don't look like crabs.
Eventually evolved.
So that's
others didn't have the right leg structure for that sideways, ultra-stable movement, and a few were living in environments that completely collapsed during mass extinction events like the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs, which I guess is not entirely their fault. But even if their descendants didn't survive, evolution remade their crab design again. It's built into the way our universe works that crab-shaped bodies will continue forming, as these are just effective builds for crustaceans. The crabs of today are the most successful crab designs that have existed so far. But what else can or will turn into crabs? the scary answer is anything in the right environment. We've seen tons of animals drift towards this crab shape. Even some shrimp lineages are showing early signs of flattening out and tucking their tails. The first baby steps on the long road to becoming a crab.
I wonder, does it taste better though? Would it taste better as a shrimp or as a crab?
In reality, this process only really affects
That's
crustaceans
creepy, by
to
the way.
the
When you see it like that, it feels like you're eating a spider. I don't know.
or any extent. We won't actually be seeing lions becoming crabs anytime soon. Their builds are for completely different environments. Humans, especially being the dominant species on this planet, are not likely to evolve into crabs either. You're safe, for now. But something really interesting to look at is that other animals have evolved similar body shapes as crabs for similar reasons, even if they're not crustaceans at all. Take stingrays, for example. They aren't crabs.
So they assume the body, it's not going to look exactly like a crab, but it's going to assume a similar shape because that format is so good that it doesn't even matter what species you are, you're getting
close. But they ended up with a body shape that's surprisingly similar in principle. A wide, flattened body that's built for stability on the seafloor. Just like how crabs flatten out to stay low, resist currents, stingrays flattened out to glide through open water with almost
if you're in an environment that needs it.
Drag. So does this mean stingrays are becoming crabs too? Well, no. But they are shaped slightly similar for a similar reason. A case of partially convergent evolution. It's not carcinization, it's not stingrayization either. It's just flatization. Everything is relative after all. You see these examples of partially convergent evolution in animals all the time actually. We just don't often think about it. Look at dolphins and sharks. These two animals could not be more different biologically. Sharks are ancient fish with skeletons made of cartilage. Dolphins are warm-blooded mammals that breathe air, nurse their young, and are more closely related to cows than to anything in the ocean. Yet, put them side by side.
Weren't they kind of like cows that went into the ocean? I thought that was it. It was kind of something like that.
Both ended up with almost the same straight line.
Dolphins, and I'm pretty sure I heard dolphins and whales were in the water. Like, we were all in the water. We came out to the land, and then they went back to water. So I thought dolphins and whales were like cows and stuff like that.
Torpedo-shaped bodies, because that shape is simply the most efficient way to move fast through water. If you want to cut through the ocean with low drag, stay stable at high speeds, and use as little energy as possible, evolution starts pushing you towards that same sleek, pointed design.
Same shape.
If you want to stay close to the seafloor,
it's like how all cars have a similar kind of design, because they need to be more aerodynamic, you know? So it all kind of ends up looking the same, except some cars actually just don't care about aerodynamics at all.
You end up becoming flatter. Birds, bats, insects, even pterosaurs all figured out the same basic design because the physics of flight leaves you with only a handful of options that actually work. The environment that we live in only gives us a select amount of blueprints available to choose from. It's not that everything is becoming crabs. It's that everything that fits these kind of environments is turning into this highly effective shape. And we just call this a crab. We, fortunately or unfortunately, won't see any animals fully crabify in most non-crustaceans because crustaceans already have the perfect body layout for turning into crabs. Their shells can widen, their tails can fold under, and their legs can shift sideways without breaking their whole design. Other body plans don't have that flexibility. Wings, for example, need very specific structures and muscle setups, so only a few groups ever evolve them. A lion or a lizard doesn't have the starting blueprint to flatten into a crab or grow wings without losing its ability to function, ignoring that being a crab wouldn't even help in their environment. Carcinization isn't really some universal evolutionary...
I wonder, the spider shape though, or that's kind of similar, right? So are some insects trying to becoming more spider, right? Because they're becoming more crab-like, so maybe they're becoming more spider-like. I don't know.
Destiny. It's just a repeated outcome in a certain group of animals that are able to become crabs. Unfortunately, as diverse as the world is, evolution can't come up with new ideas constantly, and crustaceans just happen to be built in a way that keeps funneling them into becoming crabs. Thank you guys
Yeah.
for watching. At the time this video was made, we've just hit 50,000 subscribers,
Congrats.
which is absolutely insane.
That's crazy. Look, oh, they're at 122,000. That was a great video. Oh, I'm subscribed to them, so I must have already watched another video of theirs. Yeah, that was a great video. Really good video. I liked it. I learned something new. Thank you for watching. Bye.